2020 Town of Brunswick regular town board meeting. I'll call it to order, and if you would, I'd like to ask everybody to please rise.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have the shields up here. I'll take this off so people can hear me. All right, at this point, I'll open the meeting and ask if there's any visitors who wish to speak. Sir, come on right up. Grab the microphone. Gotta make sure that's turned on, right, Bill? Switch there again. Here's your name and address.
My name is Adam Lott, and here to speak with you all about a property, Garfield. The address is 545 Garfield. My family and I have a kombucha business in Troy, actually right down the road off of Husick and 15th. We're technically on 13th and Hutton, one road in from Husick, so we're already pretty nearby. And we've been renting down there for the past few years in what was the Church of St. Paul. And we've been looking for a while, although the whole COVID thing slowed things down considerably, to find a new home for our business as well as for ourselves and our family. We're a small family business. It's my wife and I and two brothers-in-law that run the whole show. And so we were looking, actually my wife and I were passing by this property on Garfield every day, or every time we go to see our midwife, who lives just down the road, both family midwifery, and finally went and checked it out a few weeks ago and fell in love with it. It's a really beautiful property and fits us pretty perfectly. It's got a big barn that we could use for our production facility and nice house that we can all live in, my wife and I and my mother-in-law and parents. The only issue is that it's zoned in such a way, part of the property is zoned as a hamlet, and part of the property is zoned ag 40, which presents a few issues for us in terms of possible usages. So we would have to, I've been on the phone with Chuck Golden a few times over the past week and a half or so, and I was trying to see what it would look like to rezone it. He recommended to me that another option today was we call it
Point development district?
yes, a PDD, yep.
A PDD.
So regardless of what manner we do it, I kind of wanted to know from y'all and get a sense of whether the town of Brunswick, and in particular with respect to this property and the zoning, would be welcoming and willing to work with us on trying to make it so that we can do things in that space on the up and up. We've already put an offer in, but we haven't signed a contract with the seller yet because we want to know that we'll be able to do what we need to do in it first. So that's why I'm here today. Everybody that I spoke to on the phone, Golden, the assessor, have been super helpful and informative, and really already grateful for all their help. But yeah, wanted to kind of get a feel from y'all.
I missed it at the beginning. What kind of business?
So we make kombucha, which is a fermented tea. We call ourselves a brewery because we're brewing it, but sometimes that maybe invokes a different image than what we really look like. We probably are like, you've been to Rare Corn in Troy, probably like a quarter to a fifth of the size of them in terms of our output. We don't make alcohol, we make this beverage called kombucha, which is a probiotic fermented tea. Basically make an iced tea and ferment it. Not quite, but sort of similar to how you would make vinegar or yogurt. And it's a healthful probiotic beverage, as well as a non-alcoholic option for people who have had enough at the end of the night or who are needy. So we sell to different bars and breweries and restaurants in the area, down to New York City and over to Syracuse into Berkshires.
So you would actually
actually have vats?
We ferment in oak barrels that we get made up in the Adirondacks. They're similar to like whiskey or wine barrels. Actually, our friends at Albany Distilling put us in contact with Cooperage up there in the Adirondacks. Custom makes the barrels for our process. We have about 16 barrels.
So actually, if you produce this and then in the barn there, normally you wear the barn?
Yeah, I mean, we don't, right now we're working out of 3,000 square feet, which is the old cafeteria in the basement of the Church of St. Paul. This barn is 4,000 square feet, so that's going to be, and it has high ceilings. In the church basement, we're pretty limited by height.
So once you get going and you start marketing this, what do you figure the traffic is going to be to your facility?
To be honest, up until the whole COVID thing, we were open at our tasting room, which was like a little area that we had in our production facility at the church on Saturdays from 1 to 5. It was mostly because people kept wanting to see how we make what we make, and instead of scheduling tours throughout the week, we were like, come on over on Saturday, we'll be open for 4 or 5 hours, and you can come get a glass or take some cans home with you. We closed our tasting room before all the closed. We did it like March 7th or something, because we were like, this is in the same space as our production. My wife was pregnant at the time. My brother-in-law just had a baby. The grandmothers are always around. We just couldn't really risk having a lot of traffic. If the virus gets figured out, would I like to be able to welcome the public to come see what we're making and, you know, have a sort of a farm stand type setup? People can buy stuff and take it home? Definitely, I would. I don't know when I would feel comfortable with that, to be honest, especially if we would be living right there. And I also don't know when we would even realistically be able to set up a nice space to welcome the public in. So I think it'd be at least a year or two before we look to do something like that.
Now, the land there, you grow crops for this?
So we use, as much as possible, local ingredients in what we make. We use herbs and honey and maple syrup from local farmers, and some actually right here in Troy, others farther up like in Granville area. A dream of mine has definitely been to grow more things for ourselves. We even have some customers that have orchards, you know, farther down south in the Hudson area, that I've already been telling them, like, hey, would you sort of help us figure out what we need to do to plant some fruit trees and, you know, put things in here so we can start to produce things ourselves, gather our own honey and whatnot, raise bees. That's one of the big perks of the 32 and some change acres that are there. We would love to be able to do that over time for sure. So it kind of has everything we need right now, which is the house and the metal barn with a concrete floor. It's a good shell starting point for us, nice blank slate. And then that land that we could eventually start to work on and put to use. And I would love to see it filled with fruit trees. That would be awesome.
We redid our zoning just a few short years ago. Of course, that's a Hamlin, so I mean the legal part of it, we have to look into. What the gentleman's asking, I think, is whether the board's interested in this concept for the area. Is that what I'm hearing, Tom?
Yeah, I think that's what he's asking. You know, when you get down to it, you have to look at exactly what they're going to be doing and then look at it against what's allowable in there. Like, I understand that do you do any retail sales on where you presently operate?
Right now, what we're doing is shipping and contactless home deliveries. People order on our website, and in Albany, Troy, and Schenectady will drop it off on their front doorstep because we weren't comfortable having people come into our space anymore. That's how I think it would remain.
Do you sell wholesale?
Yeah, so what we do is we sell to restaurants and bars and coffee shops and hotels and you know, markets, things like that.
What percentage of your business is wholesale and what percentage do you think is
right now, before the pandemic, we were doing about 10% of our business was retail. Now it's probably more like 4 or 5%. And that's all
So it's
online.
90 plus
Yeah,
wholesale.
at its lowest, we were doing 90% wholesale. And then now it's more like 95.
Those are part of the license as well.
No, it's technically non-alcoholic.
Yeah.
But that being said, I would like to eventually, if, world permitting, be able to have a farm stand type setup, especially if we have fruit trees and grow things on there. It's not that I would never want to be able to welcome people to come see where we grow things, see how we do it, have them buy from us. I think that's part of the experience and pleasure of agricultural land.
I understand, I was just asking because it matters for what uses are allowed.
Right, for sure.
The word's out a little bit, which is still a small town. And I've had a couple neighbors come up and already said that, they thought this would be a good idea. What's happening in Brunswick, what's happening in a lot of different spots. We're losing a lot of our farmland, wood houses, and also solar panels are going up all over the place. So I think what I'm hearing is you would like to see that in the agricultural line, anyways, the land. So, I mean, to me, it doesn't sound like a bad project. So I don't know what the rest of the board. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I can't remember what the hamlet allowed uses are either.
When you're talking about, sorry.
Yeah, and the other thing too is if it was, if you were currently, I forget what the percentage is, right? But if you were currently, growing your own fruit and herbs and things, and it would be definitely agricultural, right? So that would be a whole different game. So there's kind of a transition period until maybe that would happen. So I think we have to lean more on the hamlet side,
Right.
of things.
So the Hamlet focuses more on like a retail
Yeah.
sales as opposed to wholesale, that's why I guess.
What I actually was kind of confused by from looking at the rules and the permitted uses, it seems like the way that it's zoned now, because Hamlet doesn't allow agricultural anything, but of the part of the property that's zoned as a hamlet, which is about half of it, 75% of it is corn right now. So
75% is what?
corn.
Corn?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it seems like the way that it's zoned now, it doesn't even permit for having a barn that's part of a farm operation and having, anything growing on there. My thought was to make it, was to request to zone the whole thing agricultural. Chuck Golden mentioned the wholesale bit, which was a bit confusing to me because, to my understanding, most farms sell majority of their produce wholesale unless they're doing like only you pick or something like that. But the minute that in my understanding of retail versus wholesale, retail is when you sell it to the consumer, to the end user, whereas wholesale is when you sell it to a restaurant or what have you, another business. I feel like most farms primarily sell to other businesses, whether it's a distributor or a restaurant directly. So I was wondering if what was meant by wholesale in the rules was what is also sometimes confusingly referred to as a wholesaler. So that's also sometimes called a distributor, somebody who goes and buys from a bunch of people and then resells it. Because otherwise it kind of doesn't make sense that you wouldn't allow wholesale business on a farm, on an agricultural land, if that's the main way that farms sell their product.
I think it's more the Hamlet that has the wholesale limitation.
The ag also doesn't, the agricultural, 40 didn't allow what it called wholesale business, but that's where I was like, oh, maybe they mean like as a wholesaler, which like if you talk about like a beer wholesaler is typically someone who goes to breweries, buys their beer, and then sells it to bottle shops and bars and whatnot. So I don't know what was meant by the wording there.
Well, this board doesn't interpret the zoning ordinance, that would be the zoning board of appeals
Okay.
would do that. My understanding of what you were coming tonight was because you wanted to propose something in the nature of a zone change, and only the town board can grant a zone change.
Okay.
But, this is something, I'm not telling you how to pursue what you want to do. I'm just explaining to you why, this board would be the one that would have to do a zoning change, because it's legislative. But interpretations of what's meant by the zoning law, that would be the province of the zoning board.
Okay. Yeah, and just to clarify, I actually am here to sort of, you could tell me whatever y'all think would be the best way to go about this, or if it's, it seems like it should be doable within some sort of category, but,
Well, you can get a variance from the zoning board of appeals,
He can apply for a use variance, they're very difficult to get. The criteria are extremely strict, and I've only seen it granted in very rare occasions in all the years I've been here. So, but it is an option.
Now, if I understand it, if we do a zoning change, and then, we change the zoning there, and then this company decides to move out, the zoning has been changed.
Right,
Somebody else will move in.
Stays.
So that's something to think about too. If you do a planned development district, you're coming in saying, here's what we want to do. And that's what you would approve is for that business.
Right, yes, that's right. It would be much more limited.
Not to you, but.
Not to you, but it would limit what someone else could do if you decided
Okay.
to move out of town. If you took out the animal restrictions, in that area, then, like, if you decided shortly thereafter that you wanted to move out, that would continue,
right, it would stay
It would,
agricultural.
no,
Change.
what change would be.
So then, if we were to go to sell it 10, 20 years down the line, it would the only thing that would be allowed on the land was what we got approved.
No, we're talking about, that's the difference between actually changing the zoning
Okay.
and doing the plan development district.
Okay.
Which also changes the zoning, but it's much more limited. Usually when the board grants a plan development district, it's for a specific operation.
Okay.
Does that sound like the best way to proceed? Is it any?
That's up to him and his attorneys. I don't think it's the board's province to tell him how to proceed.
I think what I'm hearing is that the board is saying this is a bad idea. This gentleman's not going to spend all his money. If we're saying it's not a bad concept for that area,
I just
then
don't
you-
want to over the line.
Yeah.
yeah. Right? Marty?
I think it's the right direction, but don't take that as an approval.
Right.
I think that sums it up very well.
Okay.
All right.
Because you never know, you get sometimes, either way, we have to have public hearings
That's right.
and you might have a couple of neighbors that are happy, and you might have 20 that come that are opposed, and then it gets harder.
Okay. Well, I guess our course of action is going to be to have a contract to buy with the condition being that we're able to get the permission to do what we would want to do with the land, so that, we go through this process before we move in and find out who we can.
Maybe you go around to all the neighbors within a half a mile there and definitely explain your plan in pretty good detail and get their feedback on how they would respond to that business being there. Traffic and trucks coming and people being there, whatever.
What are you going to find in that area? You're going to have a lot of neighbors. It's very quiet and very cooperatives, since it's a cemetery there, so.
Right.
They're very quiet across the street there. I've lived there a long time, I know the area, so. Okay?
All right, thank you.
Excuse me, I didn't quite catch your last name.
It's spelled E-L-A, B as in boy, D as in David.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. All right, gentlemen, moving into business. Minutes of the previous meeting, July 9th meeting. Have a motion approved, or Gordy made a motion, I'll make a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We're still very limited here in terms of attendance, and with our corona situation, starting to feel a little bit more comfortable. We're getting our protocols down better and better, keeping our social distance. We got a person here tonight checking people in, taking temperature, asking the questions. The court has opened back up. We've got the room marked with our 6 foot. So at this point, I'm thinking about asking our department heads to come to the next town board meeting so we can get back into and have the staff here, because there are some questions that sometimes comes out of staff. But at this point, I've asked all the department heads to hand in their reports, which they've done. Director. I just picked up the highway report. Let me very quickly just mention a few things here. The reason I mention it is we're still operating this town, and we're moving ahead. We're giving the services, and I'll just hit a few things here on their report that I have in my hand. They cleaned and checked their catch basins and culvert pipe for a day. We paved Bolton Road. We got that ready. That took a few days. We've had the mower in the highway out, cutting brush and the weeds, tall grass along the side of the roads. Recycling, we hauled batteries, the recycling, cardboard, our brush pickup. A lot of towns, stop that. We continue doing brush. And so we pick brush up at a certain time. We did that 5 days this month. Our ball fields, we still mowed them, cleaned out our ditches. What's happening now is you go around town, you'll see a veterans banner being hung up. We put 36 of them up here, and the highway department's doing that. And people see them, and they look very, very attractive. And I want to thank Councilman Ballesteri involved with that. Mark, very nice. Thank you. People are thrilled because we're asking where they want the banners put up, and most of them want it right, of course, where they live. We'll mention White Church Road with the Roden family. There's 7 of them over there, 7 Rodens on that road with banners. So people saw them. So today they went back out and hung up, I believe, like another 8 or 10 banners. They look pretty good, and people were thrilled. So picking up leaf bags, just going down through here. I mean, every day we're doing it. Smith Hill Road was a disaster. We went in there finally. We brought Gorman Brothers in. We ground the road up. It was so bad. Spent 2 days with that. We're letting it harden up, and then we plan on paving it. Our town beach has been open, so we've been trimming that and mowing that. The beach, I think this year will probably shut down at the end of this month because all the lifeguards are college students. We used to try to hire some high school, but we've kept the numbers down this year because we didn't have day camp, so we didn't need the great numbers. And as you know, with our sales tax, we're watching our dollars that we spend very, very carefully. So all the young men and women are going back to college, so I'm thinking probably the first of the month of September we'll probably shut it down, or maybe we can leave it open for people to come in and not swim, but we got to talk about that at some point. We also help Rensselaer County Highway Department paving. One thing I noticed, I was wondering who was doing this, I've never seen it done before, but we've been out weed whacking our guardrails, which looks very, very good. I've seen some big guardrail areas with a lot of weeds, high weeds cut. So that's the highway. The reason I mention that is we're still working, the town office is still working, so we're not shut down. So with that, we have the water department hand in the report, right, Bill?
That's in, water's in, let's see, actually, everybody came in, highway, water, code enforcement. Now, I did have, Sharon Zankel, our town historian, when she emailed it first, she wanted me to just mention two things briefly. Was that, Tamarack High School did a virtual graduation, and that is available on YouTube. Just wanted to let people know if they wanted to look at that. And also, remind everybody about the census. That, in fact, at this point, Brunswick is very, very high on its response. Second only to Greenbush in this area.
Excellent.
But at 70-some odd percent, still more to go. So everybody that's out there listening, make sure you get signed up. It's important.
Okay. So at this point, I'll make a motion that we accept our department heads, elected official reports as submitted.
I'll make a motion. Or second.
Okay, well, let's do roll call on that. Okay, in that case, the motion was made by Supervisor Harrington and seconded by Councilman Sullivan. Roll call vote. Councilman Christian.
Aye.
Councilman Sullivan.
Aye.
Councilman Balfour.
Aye.
Councilman Sickerly.
Aye.
And Supervisor Harrington.
Aye.
Reports are approved as submitted.
Okay, resolutions, Bill?
Yes. All right. We have 5. All right, resolution number 51, 2020. Resolution appointing members to zoning board of appeals.
I'll offer it. I'll second it.
Foregoing resolution offered by Councilman Balfour, seconded by Supervisor Harrington. Roll call vote. Councilman Christian.
Aye.
Councilman Sullivan.
Aye.
Councilman Balfour. Aye. Councilman Sickerly.
Aye.
Supervisor Harrington.
Aye.
Foregoing resolution is adopted. Number 52, 2020. Resolution declaring items to be surplus property.
I'll offer it.
Foregoing resolution was offered by Councilman Sullivan, seconded by Councilman Christian. Roll call vote. Councilman Christian.
Aye.
Councilman Sullivan.
Aye.
Councilman Balfour. Aye. Councilman Sickerly.
Aye.
Supervisor Harrington.
Aye.
Foregoing resolution is adopted. 53, 2020. Resolution adopting Rensselaer County multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan.
I'll offer.
I'll second.
Foregoing resolution offered by Councilman Christian, seconded by Councilman Balfour. Roll call vote. Councilman Christian.
Aye.
Councilman Sullivan.
Aye.
Councilman Balfour.
Aye.
Councilman Sickerly.
Aye.
Supervisor Harrington.
Aye.
Foregoing resolution is adopted. Resolution 55, 2020. Resolution authorizing execution of agreement for payment in lieu of taxes and stormwater management agreement.
It's 54, right, Bill? Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, 54. Yep. Yeah, we had a number and we had a couple of folders here.
Yep.
Yep. So, Councilman Christian offered it, and then a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Foregoing resolution offered by Councilman Christian, seconded by Supervisor Harrington. Roll call vote. Councilman Christian.
Aye.
Councilman Sullivan.
Aye.
Councilman Balfour.
Aye.
Councilman Sickerly.
Aye.
Supervisor Harrington.
Aye.
Motion on resolution is adopted. And last, number 55, is a resolution authorizing release of escrow funds.
I'll offer it.
Thanks.
Aye.
Counselor Ray.
Aye.
Counselor Sibley.
Aye. And I'll recuse.
Supervisor Harrington recused himself. Overgoing resolutions is done.
Okay. Correspondence?
Not that I
Old business?
I do. Could I? Shortly after the last meeting, when we were going over a few things, and you mentioned the town beach and how we're keeping a close eye on it, and where direction we might have to go. I think it was the next day, if not the day after that, that I was approached at my store by a resident that wanted me to know how she and her family felt. And I told her I would read the correspondence. Dear Town of Brunswick, we are writing this letter to express how much we love and value the Brunswick Town Beach. We swim at the beach almost every day. In this weird year of COVID, the beach is an easy way to get out of the house and do something fun while social distancing. Brunswick truly shines in the months of July and August due to the town beach. We see people of all ages using the beach to swim, picnic, reef, fish, paddle, etc. Our relatives love to come visit and spend time at the beach. In normal years, people throw parties in the pavilion. Camp is a valuable program for many families. We have a lot to say on the topic of town resources for families with young children, but for now, we can't tell you how much we appreciate the beach opening this summer. Sincerely, Debbie, Jesse, Maren, and Lucy Hoffman family.
Very good. Thank you. Anybody else? Any other old business?
Yeah, on the veterans flags, you mentioned them earlier, it was a group effort. I just want to acknowledge the folks that were involved in that process. Tracy Broderick, Justice Buchanan, Phil, you were there, and the town highway guys stepped up. Gordy, appreciate you helping out with that part of it. We ran into a small glitch with the hanging of them, and they stepped up and helped us out, and it really a great community thing, and I want to thank everybody for that.
I tell you, they're pretty attractive. They look good. So. It means a lot as they go up and people quickly call on the wives and so on and so forth. So it's nice, very nice. Thanks, Mark. Any other new business? I will mention Brittenkill School has contacted me, and of course they're trying to get their plans for opening up. Part of their plans is to keep the number of students down on the buses. So they asked me if the town would be open to the school using our soccer facility for parking for some students. I told them I would be interested personally. However, I've worked my town attorney, who's very excellent for the last 20 years on my right here, so I'm pretty sure that he would want to know about the liability. So we had Tracy, my administrative assistant, call our insurance company and ask, because the last time the school wanted to use it, I thought it was a good idea, and I said to the school, what about the liability? Because the kids are going to be crossing Route 2, and as everybody knows, there's a lot of trucks coming down there loaded pretty heavy with stones. And at that time, the school said, well, the liability is on the town. So I told them I wasn't interested. However, there's a new administration up there. We've been working excellent together. I understand they got issues. Our insurance company said that they would like to have some kind of rider or whatever the term is. So, yes. So I'm just looking into things. They mentioned a crossing guard, so I'll get a lot more details before we just left the cars parked there and kids run back and forth. But yeah, because it's a little scary out there too. So
Just to add on, I sat on a call today about the reopening plan.
Okay.
And just so everybody understands, they're looking for the parents to voluntarily drop their kids off versus riding the bus, because that's the hardest part to control. Normally the buses hold about 60 kids. because of the social distancing and the COVID. They're only going to be able to hold about 20. So it cuts everything down that much. So a lot of parents are electing to drop their kids. So I think it's going to create a transportation issue over there. So, and that's obviously getting them there and picking them up is going to be a big deal. It's not Route 2 is very busy.
Amazing.
But that just adds on to what you were saying, yeah.
Okay. All right, anybody else have any other business? Not, we'll get the warrants.
I made the motion, fair vote.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Get everything covered, Tom? Your knowledge, anybody else? Any other visitors who wish to speak at this time? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?